My beloved child. Before your thumb moves another inch, pause for just a moment. There is a reason your eyes found these words today instead of passing them by. Countless voices have been competing for your attention, yet somehow you arrived here. That is not because chance is stronger than purpose. It is because your heart has been asking questions your lips have been too tired to speak aloud. You have wondered whether all those quiet prayers disappeared into silence. You have wondered if the tears that fell when no one was watching simply vanished into the darkness. You have wondered if the name you whispered over and over again was heard at all. Today, I want you to know something that your weary heart has almost forgotten. Nothing you entrusted to me was ever lost. Even when heaven appeared quiet. Even when every door remained closed. Even when every sunrise looked exactly like the one before it. I was working in places your eyes could never reach. Listen carefully, because what I am about to reveal is not something fear can understand. It is something only faith can recognize. There has been movement. Not the kind that makes headlines across the earth. Not the kind announced with loud voices or flashing lights. The movement began inside a heart. A heart connected to yours in ways you cannot fully see. You have called this person by many names throughout your journey. Sometimes you called them your future. Sometimes you called them your unanswered prayer. Sometimes you called them the one who walked away. Other times you simply stopped calling them anything because saying their name hurt too much. Yet even while you tried convincing yourself to let go, a quiet hope refused to disappear. That hope did not survive because you were strong. It survived because I never released my hand from the story. For longer than you realize, I have been watching every crossroads, every conversation, every sleepless night, every hidden fear, every hesitation that kept this person standing between yesterday and tomorrow. You believed they were deciding between you and someone else. But the greater battle was never between two people. It was between fear and courage. Between pride and surrender. Between running away from healing. And finally accepting it. There were moments when they nearly convinced themselves that pretending not to care would be easier than facing the truth. They smiled in front of others while carrying questions they dared not answer. They distracted themselves with busy schedules, endless conversations, and temporary comforts, believing that if they filled every empty moment, they would never have to listen to the whisper inside their own soul. But every distraction eventually became silent. And when silence finally arrived, so did truth. Not all at once. Not dramatically. Not like thunder shaking mountains. Truth came gently. It appeared during an ordinary evening when nobody else noticed anything unusual. It arrived while memories they had buried suddenly returned without invitation. A familiar laugh echoed in their mind. A forgotten promise resurfaced. A single moment replayed again and again until they could no longer pretend it meant nothing. They tried pushing those thoughts away. Yet every attempt only made them stronger. What they believed was coincidence slowly became impossible to ignore. The peace they searched for everywhere else refused to stay. Because peace cannot settle where honesty is absent. My child, you have asked me many times why I allowed so much waiting. You believed waiting meant abandonment. But waiting has never been evidence of my absence. Sometimes waiting is where hearts become capable of receiving blessings they would have destroyed if they had arrived too soon. Think about the seeds hidden beneath the earth. From above, nothing appears to happen. No flowers. No branches. No fruit. Only silent soil. Yet underneath, life is stretching toward a future invisible to everyone standing on the surface. That is where your story has been. Beneath the surface. Hidden. Growing. Strengthening. Preparing. And while you questioned whether anything was changing, everything was. There were conversations you never heard. Moments of regret nobody confessed aloud. Decisions almost made. Then abandoned. Words written. Then deleted. Messages started. Then erased before they could be sent. Not because the feelings disappeared. Because fear still believed it could win. Fear often disguises itself as wisdom. It whispers. Wait another day. It is safer not to risk your heart. What if nothing changes? What if hope disappoints you again? Those whispers sounded convincing. For a while. But fear has one weakness. It cannot survive forever where truth continues knocking. Every day, another layer of resistance began breaking apart. Slowly. Quietly. Almost invisibly. Until something unexpected happened. The question changed. Instead of asking, "What if I lose everything?" this person began asking, "What if I lose the one thing that truly mattered because I stayed silent?" That question would not leave. It followed them into ordinary mornings. Into crowded rooms. Into lonely evenings. Into restless nights when sleep refused to remain. My child. That question became the beginning of transformation. You have mistaken silence for indifference. But not every silent person has an empty heart. Sometimes silence is where battles are fought that nobody else can see. Every time you surrendered another prayer into my hands, another unseen piece of the story shifted. Every time you chose forgiveness over bitterness, heaven recorded something greater than you realized. Every time you resisted becoming someone pain wanted you to become, darkness lost another opportunity. You believed your prayers were changing only you. They were reaching farther than you imagined. The story you are watching did not begin yesterday. It began the first moment hope refused to die. And now, something has changed. Not everything. Not yet. But enough that the direction can never return to what it once was. Because a decision has finally been made. Not spoken aloud. Not announced publicly. But settled within the deepest place of the heart. And once a genuine decision is made there, the outward steps eventually follow. The question is no longer whether movement has begun. The question is what happens next. Because decisions always invite consequences. Some bring healing. Some reveal hidden opposition. Some awaken old fears one final time before freedom arrives. The next chapter is already moving toward you. And you are closer than you think to discovering what that decision truly was. But before it is revealed, there is one hidden truth you have not yet seen. And when it comes into the light, nothing about this story will ever look the same again. My beloved child, do not rush ahead of this moment. I know your heart is eager to discover what happened next, but there is something you must understand before the next piece of the story is uncovered. If you only saw the outcome without seeing what took place in the hidden places, you would never understand how deeply I have been involved all along. The decision your heart has been praying for was not born in a single instant. It was formed through countless quiet moments that no one else witnessed. Long before words were spoken, long before actions could be seen, something inside your person began to awaken. At first they could not explain it. They tried to ignore it. They told themselves it was only emotion. They blamed it on memories. They convinced themselves that time would make everything disappear. But every day they woke with the same feeling. Something unfinished remained. Every place they visited reminded them of something they thought they had forgotten. A familiar song carried them back to a conversation they once dismissed. A simple smile from a stranger reminded them of the kindness they had once received from you. Even ordinary moments became unexpected mirrors, reflecting a truth they had buried beneath fear. The more they tried to silence their heart, the louder their conscience became. There came a night unlike the others. The world around them finally became quiet. No messages. No distractions. No endless noise. Only silence. And in that silence they were forced to meet the one person they had been avoiding. Themselves. For the first time in a long time, they stopped defending every choice they had made. Instead, they began asking questions they had never allowed themselves to ask before. What if I misunderstood everything? What if I walked away too quickly? What if the person I have been trying to forget is the very one my heart has never truly left? Those questions were uncomfortable. They brought tears that nobody else saw. Regret has a way of arriving softly. It does not always shout. Sometimes it simply sits beside a person until they can no longer pretend everything is fine. My child, I never desired to fill their heart with guilt. I desired to awaken truth. Truth is never sent to destroy. Truth is sent to restore. As the days continued, the walls around their heart began to crack. The confidence they once displayed before others slowly gave way to humility. They began seeing their own mistakes with new eyes. Not because someone forced them. Because healing had finally begun. Meanwhile, you were wondering why nothing seemed to change. You questioned whether your prayers had reached heaven. You wondered if letting go meant giving up. You even whispered, Lord, if this is not your will, help me release it. And every one of those prayers reached me. Not one was ignored. Some prayers receive immediate answers. Others begin unseen journeys that take time to unfold because hearts cannot be rushed into genuine transformation. Had I forced this decision months ago, it would have been built upon pressure instead of conviction. Now, it is different. Now the decision belongs to them. No one manipulated it. No one demanded it. It rose from a place where truth finally became stronger than fear. Yet even after making that decision, another battle appeared. They wondered. Will it be too late? That single question haunted them. They remembered the pain. They remembered the silence. They remembered every opportunity they allowed to slip away. Fear whispered once again. You waited too long. You have already lost everything. They will never believe you. For a brief moment, they almost turned back. Old habits always try to reclaim new beginnings. But something inside refused to surrender this time. Instead of running, they stayed. Instead of hiding, they reflected. Instead of blaming, they accepted responsibility. That is when heaven celebrated quietly. Not because the journey was finished, but because the direction had changed. There is a difference between someone who simply feels emotion and someone whose heart has truly changed. Emotion fades. Transformation remains. My beloved child, I know you have imagined many different endings to this story. Some nights you imagined reconciliation. Other nights you prepared yourself for permanent goodbye. You have carried hope in one hand and disappointment in the other for so long that you have forgotten what it feels like to rest. But I am inviting you now to release your need to control every chapter. You cannot force flowers to bloom by staring at them. You simply continue watering the ground. The bloom arrives at its appointed time. While you have been waiting, I have also been preparing you. Your compassion has grown deeper. Your patience has become stronger. Your dependence upon me has become more sincere. You thought the waiting was only changing them. It has also been shaping you into someone capable of receiving what comes next with wisdom instead of fear. The greatest miracles are not merely about bringing two people together. They are about transforming two hearts so they no longer destroy what they once prayed to receive. Now listen closely. Because this is where the story begins to change forever. The decision has been made. The first step is already forming. Words that remain trapped inside the heart are preparing to become spoken. Silence is reaching its limit. Very soon, something unexpected will open a door that neither of you planned. It will seem ordinary to everyone else. But you will recognize it for what it truly is. The beginning of the answer you have been praying for. And when that moment arrives, another hidden truth, one that has remained concealed since the very beginning of this journey, will finally come into the light. That revelation will change everything. My beloved child. The quiet you have been living through is not empty. It is full of movements your eyes cannot yet measure. While you have searched for visible signs, Heaven has been arranging moments that appear ordinary but carry extraordinary purpose. There is something I want you to understand before the next door opens. The decision that was made within your person's heart was only the beginning. Every true decision is tested before it becomes visible. The moment they chose honesty over fear, another voice immediately tried to convince them to turn back. What if nothing changes? What if you are rejected? What if the damage is beyond repair? Those questions echoed through their thoughts like waves striking the same shore again and again. Yet each time fear spoke, another whisper rose even stronger. Stop running. Face the truth. Choose courage. They could not explain why those words refused to leave them. Even during ordinary moments, when they laughed with others or buried themselves in work, the same gentle pull remained. It was not forcing them. It was inviting them. My child, I have never delighted in brokenness. I delight in restoration. Sometimes restoration begins long before two people meet again. It begins when pride loses its grip. It begins when excuses no longer satisfy the heart. It begins when a person finally says, I cannot keep living the way I have been. That quiet surrender changes everything. While this was unfolding, I was also speaking to you. Not through loud miracles. Not through dramatic signs. But through unexpected peace in moments when you thought peace was impossible. You may not have noticed it at first. There were days when your heart hurt just as deeply as before, yet somehow you stood up again. Somehow you found the strength to smile once more. Somehow hope survived another sunrise. That strength did not come from your own determination. It came because I was carrying you when you believed you were walking alone. Then came a day your person will never forget. A conversation they did not expect. A familiar name spoken at an unexpected moment. A memory awakened without warning. In that instant, they realized they could no longer pretend the story was over. For the first time, they stopped asking whether they should reach out. Instead, they began asking how. That single change revealed what had truly happened inside them. Fear no longer controlled the future. Love had found its voice. But there was still one hidden obstacle neither of you could see. It was not another person. It was not distance. It was the weight of everything left unsaid. They wondered whether forgiveness was still possible. You wondered whether trust could ever return. Those questions stood between two hearts like a bridge waiting to be crossed. Do not despise that bridge. It is where humility is learned. It is where grace becomes real. It is where healing begins to breathe again. My beloved child, remember this, genuine restoration is never built upon pretending the pain never happened. It is built upon bringing truth into the light and allowing compassion to do what anger never could. The next chapter is closer than either of you realize. A small step will soon begin a much greater journey. An ordinary moment will carry extraordinary meaning. A message. A conversation. A meeting that seems almost accidental. Yet nothing about it will truly be accidental. When that moment arrives, your heart will understand why I asked you not to lose hope. Because what seemed delayed was being prepared. And what seemed silent was never forgotten. Stay faithful. Stay patient. Keep your heart free from bitterness. For the story has not reached its greatest revelation. The most important words have not yet been spoken. And when they are, you will finally understand why every prayer, every tear, and every season of waiting became part of a purpose far greater than you could see. My beloved child. The horizon is beginning to brighten, even if the first light is still too faint for your natural eyes to notice. Do not mistake a quiet dawn for an absent sunrise. Some of the greatest changes begin while the world still believes it is night. Your heart has carried questions that only I have fully heard. You have replayed old conversations, wondering whether one different sentence could have changed everything. You have revisited moments you wished you could rewrite. Yet I tell you this now, do not become a prisoner of the past when I am preparing you for a new chapter. Your person has reached a place they never expected. The certainty they once had about walking away has dissolved. The walls they spent so long building no longer feel like protection. Instead, they have begun to feel like a prison. For the first time in a long while, they have stopped asking how to avoid their feelings. They have begun asking how to face them. That question has changed everything. There were moments when they almost convinced themselves that waiting one more day would make things easier. But every sunrise carried the same gentle reminder within their heart. Every sunset ended with the same unfinished thought. Some stories cannot remain unfinished forever. Not because people force them to continue, but because truth keeps calling them forward. Meanwhile, I have been preparing you in ways you did not recognize. There were disappointments that strengthened your compassion. There were delays that deepened your wisdom. There were lonely nights that quietly taught you to depend upon me more than your own understanding. You believed those seasons were empty. They were full of preparation. My child, never underestimate what can happen when two hearts begin choosing humility instead of pride. Humility opens doors that strength alone cannot unlock. Forgiveness softens places that anger could never heal. Hope continues building long after fear has stopped trying. Soon, an unexpected opportunity will appear. It may seem ordinary to everyone else. A familiar name. A brief conversation. A simple message. A moment that almost seems too small to matter. But small beginnings often carry the greatest purpose. Do not rush ahead of what has not yet happened. Do not allow anxiety to write the ending before the story reaches its final pages. Remain steady. Remain kind. Remain faithful. For the greatest surprise is not merely that a decision has been made. It is that both of you are no longer the same people who stood at the beginning of this journey. The waiting has changed you. The silence has refined you. The tears have watered seeds that are finally ready to rise above the surface. Very soon, what has been hidden will begin stepping into the light. And when the next conversation finally begins, you will discover that one truth has been quietly waiting behind every unanswered prayer, a truth so unexpected that it will reshape everything you thought you knew about this journey. But that revelation belongs to the next chapter. My beloved child, take a slow breath and allow your heart to become still. You have traveled through seasons that seemed endless, carrying questions that appeared to have no answers. Yet even in the moments when you believed the story had reached its end, I was quietly preparing a beginning that neither of you could yet imagine. The greatest turning points rarely arrive with thunder. They arrive with a single choice. A single act of courage. A single moment when someone decides that fear will no longer write the ending of their story. Your person has arrived at that moment. The weight they carried for so long has become too heavy to ignore. Every excuse that once felt convincing has slowly fallen away. Every reason to remain silent has been overshadowed by one simple truth. A heart that refuses honesty can never know real peace. They have come to understand that love cannot grow where pride is protected more carefully than truth. That realization did not happen overnight. It was shaped through quiet reflection, unexpected memories, and countless moments when they felt my gentle invitation calling them toward healing instead of hiding. Now they stand at a crossroads. One path leads back to familiar fear. The other leads toward restoration. The difference is that this time, they are no longer asking which path feels easier. They are asking which path is right. That question has opened a door no fear can fully close. My beloved child, while this has been happening, I have also been preparing your heart. You have learned that patience is not weakness. You have discovered that forgiveness is not forgetting. You have realized that trusting me does not always mean understanding every step before you take it. These lessons were never punishment. They were preparation. Because the blessing you prayed for required a stronger foundation than emotion alone. If two hearts return together without wisdom, old wounds often return with them. But when humility, grace, and truth become the foundation, even broken places can begin to heal. Soon, something small will happen. To everyone else, it may seem insignificant. A conversation that lasts only a few minutes. A message that appears ordinary. A chance encounter. Yet heaven often works through ordinary moments to accomplish extraordinary purposes. Do not overlook what seems small. Some of the greatest miracles begin with the simplest acts of courage. When that moment arrives, listen more than you speak. Show kindness before certainty. Choose understanding before assumption. Allow grace to guide your words. Remember that healing is not proved by perfect conversations. It is revealed through hearts willing to remain honest, even when honesty feels vulnerable. No matter what unfolds next, never forget this truth. Your value has never depended upon another person's decision. You were loved before anyone chose you. You were seen before anyone noticed you. You were cherished before anyone understood your heart. That is why you can walk into the future without fear. Not because every outcome is guaranteed to match your expectations, but because my presence will remain with you through every chapter. The story you have witnessed has never been about chasing another person. It has always been about becoming the people you were created to be. Whether the next step comes tomorrow or later than you expect, continue walking in faith rather than fear. Continue choosing compassion over resentment. Continue believing that light is stronger than darkness. For every sincere prayer offered with love leaves a mark upon eternity. And as this chapter gently closes, remember one final promise. The most beautiful endings are often the ones that begin with surrender. So lift your eyes. Steady your heart. Walk forward with hope. For I am already waiting in the chapter you have not yet read, and whatever awaits you there, you will not face it alone. My beloved child, do not allow your heart to become impatient simply because you cannot yet see the full picture. There are moments when heaven appears silent, not because nothing is happening, but because the final pieces are being placed exactly where they belong. You have waited through nights that felt longer than anyone around you could understand. You smiled when your heart wanted to cry. You continued walking when every emotion begged you to stop. You wondered if your prayers had become nothing more than echoes disappearing into the sky. But every prayer you whispered became a seed. Every tear became living water. Every act of faith became another thread woven into a story far greater than you imagined. Now, the season is changing. Not because circumstances suddenly became perfect, but because hearts have become ready for what once would have broken them. Your person has begun to notice things they overlooked before. They remember your patience. They remember your kindness. They remember the way you believed in them during moments when they struggled to believe in themselves. What they once dismissed as ordinary now shines in their memory with unexpected clarity. Regret has taught them what comfort never could. And gratitude is quietly replacing fear. There will soon come a moment when they stop asking whether they should speak and begin searching for the courage to take the first step. Do not be surprised if that step is small. Many people expect miracles to arrive like lightning across the sky. Yet some of heaven's greatest works begin with a simple message. A quiet apology. A sincere conversation. A heart finally willing to say, "I was wrong." My beloved child, if that moment comes, guard your spirit carefully. Do not allow old pain to become the loudest voice in the room. Listen with wisdom. Respond with grace. Let truth guide your words instead of wounded emotions. Healing is not about pretending nothing happened. Healing is choosing not to let yesterday become the master of tomorrow. Whether this journey leads to renewed friendship, restored love, or simply a deeper peace within your own heart, remember that my purpose has always been greater than a single outcome. My desire is to make hearts whole. Whole hearts love differently. Whole hearts forgive differently. Whole hearts no longer live as prisoners of fear. As you move into this next season, keep your eyes fixed on hope rather than anxiety. Do not chase signs. Do not force doors. Walk faithfully, one step at a time, trusting that what is meant to unfold will arrive at the right moment. The chapter ahead contains conversations that have been waiting for the right time. It contains truths that could not have been understood before now. It contains unexpected joy hidden inside ordinary days. And when you finally look back on this journey, you will realize that what seemed like endless waiting was actually the road that prepared both of your hearts for a future built on honesty, humility, and lasting peace. So keep your faith steady. Keep your heart open. The story is still unfolding. And the most meaningful pages have yet to be written.